I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of liking Corky. I don't think he's like very good, but he's definitely playable. I think he's very far from being good, but yeah.
Corki is actually pretty mechanically simple, so not very challenging. He's a really strong single item power spike with Triforce. He's rarely picked your band, so you want him to dodge. One shot if you get fed, and he's great roams with this package, and his auto attack animation is really good with the. You're kind of weak until you get Triforce and until you get level 6, but you can usually come back. You need at least like 2, 3 items before you can like start to carry. You don't have any hard CC aside from your package, and even then it's just knock back. You're essentially just a crit marksman, so all the issues associated with that are also associated with Corki. So you're really squishy and you're kind of mana hungry until you get Triforce. Corki's passive is 2 parts. First part makes your auto attacks do 80% magic damage, 20% physical. This puts Corki's damage composition at about 90% magic, and it kind of makes your itemization a bit more interesting. For Corki's Q, he throws a bomb which does AoE damage and gives vision while in flight and of anything it hits for about 6 seconds. You want to use your Q to punish slashes with the Q auto, but also want to hit the minions so you can help push the wave. Because they can see the hitbox, it's pretty easy for the dodge, but you can still use it for zoning. Once you have 3 points in Q, it's good damage and wave clear, so you probably want to max it first. Corki's W is a short dash, which leaves a burning trail, which does damage if they follow you. It's your only escape and has a really long cooldown and large mana cost, so you probably don't want to waste it. You can use W to get over terrain, but it's kind of awkward if you mess it up, so you probably should go and practice tool and turn off cooldowns and mana and just figure out all the places you can use it. Corki's E does tick damage in front of him and shreds resistances for 2 seconds. Even though it doesn't seem particularly useful, it has a lot of different uses and it takes time to know when to use it. The early game, you can use your E to prep casters under tower so you can last hit it after 1 tower shot. You can sometimes score last hits with the tick damage off your E. If you want to clear a large wave, you can turn your E on and the tick damage will lower the minion's health a lot, and then you can use your Q because the minions will have negative MR. Your E does quite a lot of damage early, so you can sometimes run other champs out of lane. You want to use your E during extended trades and team fights so you can get cysts or shred the resistances. Corki's E doesn't stop his actions, so it won't cancel your auto if you want to get a Triforce proc off. Corki's ult shoots a missile which explodes if it hits the enemy, dealing AoE damage. Every third missile is a big one and deals double the damage and has a larger explosion radius. Corki can hold 7 missiles and you can see him in the bar under his mana. Corki's R has a static 2-second cooldown, so it's pretty spammable and synergizes well with Triforce. Usually I'll waste the little rockets on CS and Triforce procs, but I like to save the big one for poke and trades. If you really need to hit the enemy champ, you can sometimes target the minions and the explosion damage will hit them. That way they can't dodge. You're going to want to max your Q, E, W pretty much every game. Corki isn't really a combo dependent champ. The more important thing is about mixing spells and autos to maximize your Triforce procs. Corki's main burst damage combo is to throw out his Q, and then while the Q is in the air, you hit your ult and weave in an auto to get max damage. Another thing to note is you can use an auto and then use an ability to apply Spell Thief to it while it's in the air. The package is a powerful roaming tool, which if used correctly can get a summon or a kills almost every time. The first package comes at 8 minutes and then every 4 minutes afterwards. You can use the package to bring you back into the game or completely throw it, depending on how it's used. The package upgrades your W for 1 minute, giving it a knockback, longer range, more damage, and a 90% slow, making it hit like a truck. When you pick up your package, you get max rockets, so if you sit in base and waste the little ones before picking it up, you'll have 7 rockets and a big one. When you use the package, you become unstoppable, so you can use this to dodge CC like Veigar Cage or Zoe Sleep. The bonus 40% movement speed on the package is almost as good as a TP, so if you see the package up, you don't always have to wait for optimal wave position to pull it back. After using the package, your W cooldown is reset, so you can use it for repositioning after if needed. You're going to want to make sure you keep track of the timer on the package, because it'll reset and won't warn you. The package has a knockback, which can be played around. Try and get the knockback to knock a target into a wall, because it'll bounce back into the package. Ideally, you want to use the package bot lane, because you can get 2 heals or summoners instead of 1. Enemy jungler and bot lane probably going to expect this, especially in higher elos though. With the addition of the turret plating, my favorite way to use the package is to get a solo kill in the enemy mid. In the mid game, you want to tell your team to group when you have the package and use the package to isolate part of the team so you can get advantage fight. Sometimes you can tell your team just to start an objective like Dragon, and if the enemy team comes to contest, they'll lose the fight, and if they don't, they'll lose the objective. Because of the knockback interaction with walls, fights in the jungle are really effective and one of the best sorts of pentakills. The enemy team is taking Baron, try and lock them in the pit with a package. It seems kind of dangerous, but it's actually kind of safe. Because the package only has a knockback on the sides, if you can get out of position and bait the enemy to jump on you, and then package away, they can get stuck in the burning trail, and you can turn and fight. You want to avoid ganking champs like Ezreal, Kassadin, and Zed, so they all have blinks so they can get over the package without taking any damage. Sometimes you can run around the enemy jungle and just get valuable vision, and if they turn to chase you, they're kind of wasting their time. This is also really risky and borderline reckless, so probably not a good option. If you don't plan on changing your runes every game, I'd recommend taking this page. Fleet Footwork has a great synergy with Corki. The sustain's nice, but the bonus move speed is super nice for kiting, avoiding ganks, and dodging skill shots. Into high poke lanes, I often change the secondary tree to inspiration so I can get the biscuits. And if I see 2 or more health stacking bruisers or tanks, I'll get cut down. Into difficult assassin matchups, I'll sometimes take grasp, and it helps prevent you from getting one shot later. If I'm against a melee, I don't think I need the fleet footwork move speed. I'll sometimes go Kleptomancy, and it gives you a lot more gold so you can get your power spike faster. For the bot lane, I sometimes mix up my runes when I need to play a specific role. If I expect my support to get them low consistently and I'm not too worried about losing sustain, I'll sometimes switch to Dark Harvest since it's easy to proc it with your rockets. If my support's an engaged support and I'm not too worried about losing sustain, I'll switch to runes to get a bit more damage. If the enemy team in bot lane is mostly squishy, I'll go for Electrocute, but if I see tanks or bruisers, I'll to press the attack. In addition to these, Dope and a few others have been liking this page with Arc and Comet on Corki. It works because the Corki's E reduces the Comet cooldown. I'm not a huge fan, but I'll include it nonetheless. Because I do Maroons every game, there's so much I take into specific matchups, but wouldn't otherwise take. So it's important to take these with a grain of salt. Generally, I go for the health, but if I see champs who build Lethality or Magic Pen and I don't plan on itemizing against them, I'll switch to resistances. For example, if I'm against a Mouse, then I'm probably going to build QSS, so I won't take the Magic Resist. Then, of course, if I see a mono damage comp, I'll take the resistances too. Teleport's really good into most mages who might poke you out of lane. It's got good synergies, it lets you maximize farm and gives you global map presence with your package. It's also a viable bot lane, but usually less ideal. Exhaust is good defensively for champs who can one rotation you, and offensively for champs who don't have real escapes. Heal is best in the bot lane, or if you plan on doing a lot of 2v2s in mid. Barrier is good into ignite lanes, so you make it a little bit harder to use exhaust. Things like Ahri, Talon, or Zed. Cleanse is good into hard CC lanes and jungles. If you're actually smurfing, then you can try and go ignite, but even then I usually like TP better. Corki's passive makes itemization really interesting. Unfortunately, Riot doesn't keep it consistent on which items convert to magic damage and which don't. It's also important to note that Corki has suboptimal AP scaling, so unless there's a really valuable passive, it's probably a bad idea to build AP items. D-Shield's the best starting item in a high elo, and it's good into lanes with reliable poke. Corrupting Potion lets you keep your health bar high, and it gives mana for W. It's good against melee. It's really safe in low elo too. D-Blade is good if you want to go more aggressive and maybe win lane. It's what you should be going against other marksmen. Longsword Refillable is good if you want to rush Hexdrinker or Phage and need to survive poke. Boost plus 4 pots is less ideal, but it's decent for some skill shot champs. Cull is usually best to buy first back, but it's still good for laners with no kill pressure, so you can focus on your 10 CS per minute. Corki has amazing synergy with Triforce, and I can't see why anyone wouldn't build it. Usually I build Sheen and then Phage, but into melees, Phage is sometimes better because it helps you with kiting. I go Sork Shoes pretty much every game, but if the enemy team comp is like full tank or something, I'll go Berserkers and defensive boots if I really need them. The Triforce plus Stormrazor synergy is actually really good because it guarantees Triforce crits. For most games, you want to build Stormrazor second, but if you have a large early lead, then it's sometimes good to build Stormrazor early to help you close out the game. So it gives a quicker power spike than Triforce and still does really good damage. Once it gets to late game, you can sell it for something else as the effectiveness falls off. Rapid Fire works because the extra range and burst damage is really nice for one-shotting the enemy backline. Infinity Edge is good into tanks once you get your Zeal item. These items synergize well with Corki, but you might not need them every game. Phantom Dance is the most stat-efficient Zeal item, so it's really good for late-game DPS. Static Shiv gives better stats and more damage than RC, but you lose out on the range. So if you aren't too worried about the enemy front line, then it's still a good item. Today, the Rune King's really good if the enemy team is stacking HP or magic resist, because it gives you percent health physical damage. To a lot of mages, you'll want to rush Hex Drinker before going into your normal build, and then upgrade it to Maul late game. QSS, of course, is useful, but you can also upgrade it to Mercskim if you want the extra stats. Guardian Angel works the same way on Corki as other marksmen. Wit's End is super cheap and effective into certain comps, however, if you're wasting the stats, it might be a bad buy. Bloodthirster gives you a massive amount of AD, and the shield kind of helps too. I really don't like building these items, but sometimes you have to. Executioner's Culling works if you need Grievous Wounds early, but you shouldn't upgrade it, as Morello's is better once it gets to late game. Wood Stuff works if they're stacking MR, but it's not really ideal unless you're fed. Morello's is a pretty good last item, but other than that, it really isn't great. The Magic Pen and Grievous Wounds are nice. The AP is wasted, but it's a decent last item if it makes the rockets do more damage too.